Bama football practice this spring is underway. We're going to talk about what that looks like, including Coach DeBoer and his staff hitting the recruiting trail really hard. 70 blue chippers on campus Friday, and that concluded a week where a lot of talent was in Tuscaloosa. Alabama also got a 4-star commitment this weekend and more. We're going to talk about Alabama. Welcome to Sunday Rollback. That's when we kind of look back at the entire week and give you our thoughts on everything going on with the University of Alabama football. Oh, we're going to talk some basketball as well. Let's get this thing going. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Let's get this thing rolling with your invitation to the channel. Roll Tide. Oh, look at the crew on hand here today. What do you say, everybody? And with the catfish himself, at This Chat Is Real, Mr. Chad Anderson, and Brett Elmore, a.k.a. Big Sexy Elmo, at Brett Elmore Show, WJLX in Jasper. I'm Mick Gillispie, at Broadcaster Mick. Roll Tide, fellas.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Good to see you, Kat. Brett and I haven't seen you in a dog's age, as my grandparents would say when we would go over there once a month.
Yeah, well, last week I was in Tuscaloosa. So it was fun to go down, hang out. You know, I hadn't been to Coleman in a little bit, been to a lot of basketball games, but down there at the game last week, and, you know, it sucked a little bit, to be honest, but still a fun atmosphere, fun environment, but enjoyed recapping it Sunday morning, but yeah, or last Sunday morning, but yeah, in basketball season, I know we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but you know, it's crazy. It's already March. Already got A-Day, just a little over a month away. Unbelievable.
I know, it's crazy. It is March, and I'm out here for spring training in Mesa, Arizona, and Big Sexy Elmo, now that you're doing the morning show.
I didn't know mornings qualified me as being sexy, but I'll take it any day of the week.
You're our version of sexual chocolate from wrestling.
There you go.
Do you remember him, Chad?
Was that Mark Henry?
Mark Henry. That Mark Henry character, really, when he was running around with what was the lady's name?
Mae Young.
Mae Young. That was one of the best wrestling angles ever.
Yeah,
it really was. I hope everyone set their clocks for it, if that's even a thing now, because if not, you're going to be, early or late? I don't know. But we spring forwarded last night. You know, we had to spring forward.
Right. Yep, that's true.
Either way, if someone would just run for president based simply on that, they would win
Probably.
They would win every state across the country. One thing both parties can agree on.
Well, look, when I came out to Arizona, and the time difference was an hour, and I'm going back, and I think it's like 2 hours.
Yeah, because Arizona doesn't move.
That doesn't move.
We all spring forward. Yeah, Arizona's one of 5 states or something like that doesn't spring forward or fall back.
Boy, that's confusing.
Like
I know.
Boy, that's
it's not for them. It's just always the same.
I don't know how it benefits me or not. I mean, I guess nothing changes here, right? It just changes like when you leave here. So you guys are doing all your springing. I'm not doing my springing until Monday when I spring back to Alabama.
Did you do one of those things where you lost part of your life because you crossed the international date line?
I would love to do that.
Did you miss a day of your life? Did you cut your life short by a day?
I hope not. I would like to gain a day.
I always thought that, if I lived on the Alabama-Georgia line, and what if you lived in Alabama and you worked in Georgia?
I know
and
this.
Had a time difference. That would be so confusing to me.
Well, as you mentioned that, I used to work for the Lookouts, and they're in Chattanooga, and we had a lady that lived in across the line in Alabama, and she would come in, and it's only like a 30-minute drive. So that would be so weird, right? Because you would leave at 5, but it'd really be 4. But you had to get there, at 8, it would really be 7. So does it work out? for you? I mean, I don't know, right? You're living in the central time zone with an East Coast time life.
Yeah, that would be so. That would be too confusing. I couldn't stand that.
All right, well, let's talk some Alabama, guys. I know that's what some people are going, hey, where's the Alabama talk? Well, let's get into it right now. 70 recruits at practice on Friday. Chad, did Brian Harsin bring 70 recruits to Auburn practice on Friday? Remember when people were like, well, this guy's just another Brian Harsin.
Yeah. I think by the end of his tenure, he didn't have 70 fans in the seats the way it was looking. So I'm going to go with a no on that. We got to just stop. I don't even understand where the Harsin comparison comes from. Like it makes no sense to me. Just because two people happen to be from the same region of the United States, like, oh, well, that's what its result is going to be. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, why don't we go find all the old West Virginia coaches that, suck and then try to compare them to Nick Saban? Like, what are we doing on stuff like that? That's so dumb. Such a lazy comment by whoever starts that kind of stuff. But no, I mean it is different though. It's going to be very different. We talked about that last week. DeBoer's got his own style, his own way. You can also see how much more accessible and how much more open everybody is with the media and just the access to the program.
Yes.
I mean, we got Kane Womack mic'd up during practices. They've already got, players talking. They got, DeBoer letting the media in. They got recruits, 70 of them coming to practice. Like, just so many different things, that people aren't used to. But that's a good thing because we need DeBoer to try to put his own stamp and his own image on the program and the way he's going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, 70 players. We kind of looked over the list the other day, and it's like, good grief, they're from all over the country. I mean, and that's a good sign. And he already has results out of that. I think that was on Friday, and then I think yesterday morning he got his first commitment of the class of 2025 out of state commitment.
Yeah, you're right. Zamir Smith, a Maryland guy coming to Bama. A lot of great things started in Maryland and ended in Alabama. He's a 4-star DB, and he commits to the Crimson Tide. So, I'm proud of that. I love what I'm seeing with Coach DeBoer. Like, he's relating to the local recruits and still trying to hammer it in the South, but they're also not afraid to throw that net across the entire country.
Which is what you have to do, right, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten to the point, too, where think about this. Used to, you could sit there and it was important to recruit in your own backyard. Remember all the comments of, oh, they went into Georgia's backyard and took this guy from Mark Richt, or, oh, they went into Texas and took a guy from Mac Brown, or they, whatever the case may be. But now with the national brands and the NIL and the money and also just the access to the programs. I mean, remember, you could go back to a lot of people say this is why Nebraska sucks now, although I think Matt Rule will get them back to being a little bit better. But people say this is why they suck. It's because nobody wants to go really to Lincoln, Nebraska. Like, it's 130 degrees in the summer and it's negative 130 degrees in the winter. And it's flat and it's boring. But Nebraska had a time where they were very dominant in college football with Tom Osborne as their head coach. And so, and they would be like on that national TV game. So back in the day when you had 3 games on TV every weekend, those schools who got those slots, that's where people wanted to go play. Now you can watch middle school games on TV. You can watch your rec league baseball teams on iPad apps. I mean, you can watch anything from anywhere. So that part just doesn't matter. And Brett's right. Like, you got to get that national blanket spread out, but it's also so much easier to do. And it's just a different kind of game today.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't think it's just a national blanket anymore. The Bama brand has become international, of course, and starting to see, you start to see those players that come from Australia and places like that. It's like, how do you even know about Alabama football? You know what Alabama is, but it's cool.
Yeah, no, you're right, man. I mean, and that's what I'm curious to see, kind of how things continue to transition, just because of all of the success that DeBoer's had early. You still got to go do it on the football field, but it takes the recruiting to be able to keep the engine going. And that's something that Nick Saban never relented on, being able to go out and recruit and get the best players in the country to come to Tuscaloosa. Now, Nick Sheridan is the offensive coordinator. It does feel like Alabama has a new offensive coordinator about every year. But Sheridan, who has been with Coach DeBoer, former quarterback at Michigan, a guy who has been a coordinator in the past and was on the staff at Washington, has been impressed with Jalen Milroe. And it's hard not to be, man. I got intel from some really good sources last year before the season, and you guys probably know this. The guy was like, in the building, he was like, Milroe is respected because he outworks everyone. And that's why when he eventually won the job, it really wasn't a shock to me, right? I thought, I really thought that Ty Simpson would outplay him, but he didn't. And then he eventually became the quarterback, won an SEC championship. Now he's really impressing Nick Sheridan. And I wonder if it's that you get to work early and Milroe's there before you, and you're the guy getting paid to be there. Although with NIL, I guess you're really being paid to be there anyway, right?
Well, I mean, look, I respect anyone that's at work at 3:30 in the morning. I mean, that's.
I'm not going to be there, Brett.
Yeah. I'm snoozing, but yeah, I mean, he gets up. This guy is ready to go. He's putting in the work, and he's earning the respect of this new coaching staff, and obviously, like you mentioned, Mick, he already had the respect of the previous coaching staff.
Chad, is that the work ethic that got you where you are with Catfish Mortgage?
Yeah, with bait and switch shop. Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. I mean, I do think about how in our lives, you go through different phases, and I remember now I wasn't at the same time an athlete built like Jalen Milroe, who has a chance to maybe one day play in the NFL and make, millions and millions of dollars for his family and in his generations to come. But I step back and go, man, would I have had the discipline to get up that early with just not even talking about what's in front of you as a goal, but all the distractions around you? Like when you're the Alabama football quarterback, like there are so many things. You have people wanting your attention, people wanting to hang out with you just because of your status. You have girls chasing you. You got people who want you to go to parties. You got people who want you to come hang out with them because it makes them look cool. Like, and you get all these perks, right? Like beyond NIL. You go to the bars, you think you're like waiting in line or anything. Like, no, you're going in the back door at Galette's. You're not waiting out in front paying the $50 cover to get in. You're going doing whatever you want. So the fact that he can do that and is that focused when you have in college all those distractions on top of it, I mean, that's really tough to do. And I know it's easy to say, well, if I was him, I'd do it too because of look what's in front of you. But no matter what's in front of you, it's still hard to ignore all those temptations and distractions that center around you.
Oh, those evil temptations. He's 21 years old. And when I was 21, I was coming home at 3:30 in the morning.
I'm still coming home at 3:30 in the morning.
I was about to say, I wasn't going to admit it, but there's some nights that I have been coming in at about 3:30 in the morning. No, if you're Jalen Milroe's roommate, I'm passing him on the way in while he's going out.
I've been just really impressed with his work ethic. I know some people are going to get on here and they're going to be like, hoping that Austin Mack beats him out for the job, or hoping that Ty Simpson really puts a push for that, or, Lonergan, same thing. But the fact that the guy has just this relentless work ethic, it really sends a message to everyone. And in this day and age where, and we're going to talk about it here in a second, because I think it's worth talking about Chris Lowe's story about Nick Saban. And hey, good to see you guys. Nick Saban, the guy leaves because he's saying, hey, we lose the championship game, and instead of the guys worrying about what we need to do to get better, they're basically threatening me to transfer over playing time or NIL money. We're going to get into that in a second. But this is a guy that has none of that in his vision. And I think that's what's so great about him, guys, is that Alabama has a leader that really still cares about the program. And I know, look, Tyler Booker's one of those guys as well on the offensive line. Malachi Moore's been one of those guys on defense. Deontay Lawson, the goose egg now, same thing. You've got to get as many of those guys in the locker room as possible in this day and age.
Well, you do. And also with Milroe, it says a lot that, he was one of the first ones along with Malachi and Booker and Deontay Lawson and some of those other guys who it was never a question. It was always, we're here, we're good, we're embracing the change. We committed to Alabama. We love Coach Saban, but we also love Coach DeBoer. We love what he brings, the excitement, all these different things. So he is one of those guys. Like he's got the leadership mentality. He also, this is a really huge compliment to Milroe, and I don't know if he's going to live up to it, but he reminds me honestly a little bit of Jalen Hurts. And the reason he does is, if you really look at him, I don't think, as much as I like Milroe and his abilities and his potential to make plays and be a leader and everything, he's not the best fundamental, polished, like true quarterback of the game. There was a significant difference in talent in the quarterback position between Tua and Jalen. You saw how bad the offense started to get in 2016 and 17. Like Bama was winning games a different way. Tua comes in, they win a new way. Mac is the quarterback, they win a new way. Bryce is the quarterback, they win a new way. This is like Jalen Hurts. It's a leader, a physical guy, a guy who, just simply works harder than you. Like literally, he just works harder than you. That's why he's better than you. It's not because he's naturally better.
Right.
He just works harder than you. And that's what he reminds me of is that situation. And I tell you what, you look at Jalen Hurts. If you had ever told me that guy leaving Alabama was going to go and be a Super Bowl runner-up in the National Football League for the Philadelphia Eagles, I would have told you you're nuts. And got the highest quarterback contract, I think, ever, right? Before somebody else, maybe Mahomes or Allen or somebody topped it later. But I would have told you you're nuts. Yet there Jalen Hurts is as a Philadelphia Eagle in the MVP conversation, been to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like, just doing things you would have never thought of.
Well, what I liked from him was I think he spoke to the media on Friday, I believe, and he just said, bottom line is it's all about what's on the front of the jersey and the back of the jersey.
Yeah,
and he is a true team player, and actions speak louder than words. But I tell you, like I mentioned, it's Milroe's job to me to lose, but there'll be some great competition there.
Yeah. Okay. I love that too. Competition's a good thing. We talked about that earlier this week with the center position. Brockermeyer, is in the mix, and Brailsford's in the mix, and it's going to see what happens there, as they battle out for center. And you figure one of those guys they're both going to end up on the line probably if Brockermeyer ends up winning the job, but competition's only going to make everyone better. All right, guys, let's get into Chris Lowe's article where he basically talked to Nick Saban, and Saban told him why he retired. And I was really shocked that Nick Saban retired because, guys, like I just said before, lose to Michigan. He didn't like the way they reacted after the game. They're worried about NIL deals and threatening over playing time to transfer. And he was like, you know what? I'm out of here. And it really is sad. But Jake Coker on the Elephant in the Room podcast kind of hinted to me that was part of it. I didn't believe him, and now I saw that. And after I apologized to him, I'm sad because it really is such an indictment of where the college football game is now.
I'm not surprised about the NIL or the transfer portal. I'm surprised about the behavior of the team because that's not the identity that Coach Saban always preached.
Mhm.
And I don't want to say, and like I mentioned earlier in the week, I don't want to say he lost control of the program, but it seemed like all those things hit at once,
Yeah.
along with the constant hiring of assistant coaches. It seemed like it was a carousel. There was just so many factors, but I think that the bottom line is the NIL deal and the transfer portal and the kids just saying, hey, 80, he said 80% of them wanted to know about playing time and money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of annoyed because we all said that. Like,
Yeah.
to me, it was pretty obvious that that was part of the whole problem in the situation. Was that is just,
Mhm.
hey, the NIL. Like, Saban is the old school guy. Like, he doesn't enjoy. That's why he didn't like the NFL.
Right.
Like, he wanted to
Yeah.
have an impact on kids, right? Like, he wanted to be able to help a student athlete and help kids develop and have a life beyond just a hopeful quick jackpot in your 5-year window in the NFL.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so that's what he was shooting for. And it became less and less about that. And he even said, hey, I'm all for people getting money. That's not the problem. But just the way it changed and how it became, I mean, people tried to say, no, they're stupid. There's no way. That's not why he quit. That's not it. And it was like, yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not 100% of it, but it had a lot to do with it.
Had a lot
Where do
to
we
do
go?
with it, and of course the trip too with Miss Terry that he talked about to Florida, and
We got a party in here.
you
Anyway,
got
keep
party where
going.
you're at, Nick. But the thing with Miss Terry going to the beach, they talked about it, but they still didn't know. But it still leads back to what we were talking about. Also, now the Senate wants to have this roundtable, and guess who they invite? Mr. Saban and Greg Byrne to talk about, the future of college football. And this is, as Kirby Smart said, Nick Saban may be retired, but he's still a voice that college football needs to hear. And I'll be interested to see what happens with this roundtable because it's definitely a factor that caused the greatest to retire. And if it was not for NIL money, if it wasn't for the transfer portal, I think that Coach Saban would still be the coach today at Alabama.
I don't think he ran from the situation like some people try to make it out to be. I think he just didn't want to deal with it, and
Right.
it's like,
Yeah,
right. I mean,
fair. He's more annoyed by it than he is running
right.
from it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I it's because he doesn't have to deal with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have to do it.
He's made all the money in the world. I mean, and he was going to have to retire at some point anyway. But he doesn't have to deal with it. He can go to his big beach house there in Florida, or he can go to the lake in Georgia, and he can have an office at Bryant Denny and go talk to the senators about and do game day. I mean, come on.
I think it was more about, Mick, they're calling you for more shots. I think it was.
I love shots. I love shots.
We know you do. I think it was more, how the game changed constantly when he was head coach, and he always adjusted to it.
Mm-hmm.
It changes one way, he adjusts. It becomes more of an offensive game. People make fun of Nick Saban because he's talking about the offense shouldn't be allowed to snap the ball so fast. They shouldn't be allowed to snap it until the play clock is inside of 30 because of he's concerned about players' health and safety. Like, he always brought things up of like, guys, these are problems. Hey, these are problems. Hey, communicating with recruits, doing this, doing that. But then what he would do is go out and just say, fine, if this is the rule and this is the way it's going to be, I'll change the way I do things. I'm just trying to explain what the issues are going to be. And then he goes out and he hires Lane Kiffin of all people. He was always adapting. I just think he got to the point where with the NIL is more like you said, Mick, it wasn't running from it. He could do it. He could figure it out. He could win at it. He's already winning. He went to the overtime of the semifinals in the playoffs with it. I just think he was like, man, I don't want to start another project. I don't want to have to rewrite this whole rule book again and then rebuild and restart and redo all these things. We could win. He was winning. He wasn't losing. But, yeah, it's just like, man, screw this. It just wasn't his style. It wasn't what he wanted to put up with. I think it was just more of a choice.
Yep. All right, guys, here's one of your favorite people. Let me see if I can get him bigger here. Not you. I can get everything I'm doing is wrong. Maybe like that. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
You see him now. That's Roll Tide Willie. He was at the basketball game. Alabama finished up with an overtime win over Arkansas. Still wasn't a great – this basketball team's really struggling right now, but they did come back and win in overtime. And they're heading into the tournament. Your thoughts about the SEC tournament? I know, Chad, you're a huge basketball fan. Like Roll Tide Willie, your thoughts?
Well, I'll go ahead and admit it. Yesterday morning, I bet on Arkansas plus 15.5. I just thought the way Alabama's playing, they're trending in the wrong direction. Now, they had an amazing comeback, okay, but it was also Arkansas. Now, Arkansas is a much better team than they were early on in the season. They actually finished pretty decently down the stretch, and they were really competitive in a lot of games. But Alabama just they're doing the defense thing again. They're just not playing it. They get behind, they get in a hole, they rely on offense. They're not shooting the ball well. They're not shooting it like they're expected to, or that Nate Oates thinks they're going to. They're a little nicked up. They just got Wrightsell Jr. back. But then as soon as they did that, Ryland Griffin goes on the bench with a calf injury from the Florida game. Like, it just can't come together, it seems. And also, too, that team looked pretty defeated to me on Wednesday night against Florida, coming off of that Tennessee loss. Mm-hmm. And it just seemed like the gloom and the hangover kept trending into yesterday's game against the Hogs. Huge kudos, though, for the comeback, because, again, they were down double digits at home, figured out a way to win, and anything can happen in March.
Yeah.
But we've talked about it. They're just going to have to shoot their way into championships, and that's going to be tough to do.
What does that make them, the number 3 seed after Kentucky beat Tennessee?
Yeah, that was honestly one of the worst things that could have happened, because Tennessee was the one. We knew that. Once Alabama won, they were going to be the 2 or the 3. With Kentucky beating Tennessee yesterday afternoon, that now puts the Wildcats in the 2, because they hold the head-to-head tiebreaker over Alabama, who bumps to the 3. And now South Carolina and Auburn, it's going to be Florida are your 4, 5, 6. But Auburn beat South Carolina. So Bama's going to be the 3. And I tell you what sucks, too, and this is the other reason why you wanted Tennessee to win, is because if Florida, when the final bracket, Florida comes out, they're the 6. So Florida being the 6, that means that Bama's got to play them again instead of maybe an easier path being the 2. Also, all the tickets are going to go through the freaking roof now because you're in the same session as Kentucky.
Yeah, right.
Now all your ticket prices are sky high.
All right. Yep. Brett, thoughts on basketball?
Yeah, I mean, Alabama, you're right, Chad. They're playing from behind all the time, it seems like. Sears had 22 points. Wrightsaw had 20 yesterday. Nelson 13. He had a double-double, 13 points, 14 rebounds. Pringle had 10. He had a double-double with 10 and 10. But coming from behind, but kudos, to Bama for being able to come from behind and win the thing. But, Alabama only led in that ball game for 3 minutes and 19 seconds. That's all. and had to use overtime to win it. And I think that's the second consecutive home game that went to overtime.
Yep.
That one with Florida went to overtime at 98-93. We trailed by 15 points in the opening half, and then trailed by 10 in the second half.
Tennessee didn't go to overtime, though. Tennessee was last week.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant did I say Tennessee? I meant Florida.
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah, Florida 98-93. But looks like we'll be playing. That'll be a Friday game. Is that right?
Yeah, Friday night. Alabama will play. They'll play at 8:30.
Nice. Well, hopefully this team gets it put together, guys, because right now it feels like they're kind of crawling in as we get to the tournament, which isn't what you want. But sometimes you get revitalized when you get in. And maybe it won't be a bad thing if you get knocked out early, get a little bit of a breather, and go into the NCAA tournament looking to be that team that just surprises everyone and pulls off something special. All right, Chad, let me start with you. Let me throw you up here on the screen, and you tell everyone about ChadwickAnderson.com. Now, this is one of your side companies because, of course, we all know you from Catfish Mortgage.
Yeah, that's it. One day as a spoof, I think we are going to open up catfishmortgage.com and make that the new brand. No, it actually just in the last week had somebody else from the channel reach out and call. Appreciate them and looking to save them. We're paying off $25,000-$30,000 of credit card debt, the nasty stuff, and they're taking a higher rate on their home mortgage, but they're saving money and doing a 26-year mortgage. So they're not even losing any years on what they've already paid down. So saving money, getting rid of credit card debt, all those good things. They're only going to have one payment every month. So that's just one of those success stories I love telling. And rates have actually dipped in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So it is a good time. They've been very volatile. They've been going up and down. So if you've been on the fence, it's a good time to at least reach out and see. That's my email, chad@chadwickanderson.com. That is my cell phone. I answer that. And if you scan the QR code, we'll hook you up with lender credits and appraisal credit. We'll pay for your appraisal at closing.
All right. Well, appreciate that. And then this guy right here, the morning show on WJLX. Kat, you're going to have to jump on there with him at some point.
Talk about saving all that money, Catfish. That's what I love to hear.
Why you got all singles there, Brett? Where you been?
Well, he's been to Wesley's booby trap.
I've been to the booby trap. No, I get fan mail from this guy. If I can,
Fudd.
And he sends me 2 $1 bills every time he sends a letter.
Hey, well, you know what we ought to do when you get a big pile of them? Let's take Catfish over to Wesley's and spend that money the only way that we should, right?
That's right. We'll have a stack of ones, and then we'll have a great time. But yeah, join me weekday mornings, 6 until 10. WJLX 101.5 in Walker County and 102.5 HD3 in North and North Central Alabama, and online WJLX1015.com, the iHeartRadio app. Tune in. Just search for WJLX. You'll find us. You'll find them.
Sometimes I'm on there too, Kat. Hey, guys, thanks for hanging out with us here on Sunday Rollback, part of the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Thank you for hanging out. Don't forget that our show is presented by Pearl River Resort, celebrating 30 years over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. If you're a big-time guy, you like the slots, you like the table games, you like the Vegas-style sports book, got it all there. Dancing Rabbit Golf Course, which is the Augusta you can play. Amazing acts this summer as well. Boys to Men, Big and Rich, Lone Star, Cool and the Gang. Yeah, Chad,
and
Cool
the gang.
And the Gang. Cool and the Gang. Much more. Check it out, though, for yourself. Pearl River Resort. And pearlriverresort.com. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out, and we're going to do it again really soon. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Roll Tide.